Small electric cars are a bit like buses. You wait ages for one and then suddenly they all turn up at once. VW Group has got 3 coming over the next couple of months. But this is beating them to it. The Kia EV2. Say hello to the Kia EV2. Kia EV2, say hello to the internet. Now this is Kia's smallest electric car to date and it's arriving right as this part of the market is set to grow massively. Sales are predicted to triple over the next 6 years. So it's landed just ahead of 3 very obvious rivals from VW Group. There is the VW one, the Skoda one, and the Cupra one. They're all built on the same basic VW platform, just wearing different badges and having slightly different personalities. Think of them as the VW Group Spice Girls, which is what we've nicknamed them at Electrifying.
What do really want?
But whilst VW has been teasing us with camouflage cars and secret prototype drives and glimpses of interiors, Kia has just turned up with an actual car. Think of it as an EV9 that got shrunk in the wash. You've got the upright little SUV stands, chunky wheel arches, and those vertical star-map lights at the front. It's just over 4 metres long, but still manages to look like a proper SUV rather than a slightly confused hatchback on stilts. Let me hit you with some numbers, because this is where this car gets properly interesting. 2 battery options, 42.2 kilowatt hours or 61 kilowatt hours. And it's that bigger battery that for me really changes things, because it means that in a small, relatively affordable car like this, you get up to 281 miles, 453 kilometres if you prefer. Now that's the official lab figure, of course, driving in perfect conditions. But even in the real world, as I'll tell you more about later, you're looking at the kind of range that most of us need to make a smaller car not just be good for driving locally, but for longer journeys too. To get this kind of range, you would also normally have to go much bigger into bigger SUV territory. And let's be honest, we've got loads of those already and not everybody wants to drive a small house on wheels. We're getting the launch edition in the UK first, which will be the small battery. That's going to be sub £25,000 and those cars will be here in around May. I reckon the one to wait for will be that 281 mile Air long range version, which is going to come later. That'll be priced around £27,000, £28,000. However, because it's built in Europe, Slovakia to be precise, with Hungary for the battery, that means that it should qualify for the full £3,750 UK government electric car grant. Now, this is big car range in a smaller, usable package for very affordable money. There's a real small car, big energy thing going on behind the wheel of the EV2. So when I was driving it through central Lisbon, it was easy to drive. Steering was nice and light, very easy to manoeuvre. It's not hard to park because it's got a really good tight turning circle. However, then I took it on the motorway and it still felt good. At speed, it was solid, it felt smooth, very nice and stable. You know, often in small cars you feel a bit out of place on the motorway, don't you? Particularly in faster traffic, and I didn't at all in this. It was also, I noted, quite refined for a car of this size, with very good soundproofing. The steering is, look, it feels very assisted and quite light. If you're wanting a car with a lot of steering feedback, this isn't for you, but it's not meant to be. You know, it suits the style of the car. The seats are comfortable, driving position is good, you've got really good visibility, and the ride, I think, is genuinely very impressive. It just deals with lumps and bumps in the road really well. Although, to be fair, the roads in Portugal are doing it a few favours compared to the roads in the UK, which have loads of potholes. Power in the EV2 comes from a single motor driving the front wheels, producing around 145 horsepower. It's the same basic setup used by all its main rivals, which also get single motor at the front. Keeps things simple, efficient and cheap, exactly what buyers in this part of the market want. Now, one of the things I love about Kias is the brake regen. They do it so well, and they're doing it well in this. You can control it via flappy paddles here on the steering wheel, so you get different levels. You can have a full I-pedal mode, which gives you full-on one-pedal driving, which I love. If all this is new to you and you're wondering what brake regeneration is, then we have loads of explainers over at electrifying.com that explains all of that. It's basically a way of harvesting energy that you would lose and putting extra miles back into your battery for free. And who doesn't love free driving? Inside, it is very Kia. If you're not familiar with Kia's interiors, then they basically all look like this. I mean, literally, this could be a downsized version of the interior from the much bigger EV9. So you have a very familiar screen here. You've got two 12.3-inch screens on the outside, and then there's a central one here for the climate control. So this has your driver display, and this has all the infotainment information and your apps. But what I really like is there are handy haptic buttons there. You've got proper buttons, little controllers for your climate control, and a big old volume control. It's all very nice, very well built. You know, it doesn't feel cheap in here, and it gets fabulous headrests. Kia does do really good headrests. One thing I really like about this is that it's going to be the first Kia to get what they're calling a light option. So you can opt to do away with the navigation. It should reduce it in price a little bit. And instead you can just opt for syncing to your phone, CarPlay or Android Auto. But I'm not sure yet if we are going to get that in the UK. Now, one thing I will say is that in the press pack, it describes the interior as being vibrant and expressive, and I'm not really seeing much of that yet. I mean, I think you've got little animal characters there, and I guess that's expressive, and it does tell you to have a nice day, and that's quite cute. But it is very grey, and I do think this is a Kia thing. They do tend to only offer in the UK quite dark coloured interiors. I would like a bit more vibrancy. When you look at what Volkswagen is doing with the ID.Polo with its retro cassette thing, and what Renault has done with the interiors on the Renault 5, I just think it looks a little bit bland in here. But to be fair to Kia, it doesn't have that history to refer back to, does it? You know, giving us throwbacks to the Kia Pride of the 90s isn't quite the same vibe. Rear space, I think it's pretty impressive back here. So this is the 3-seat option. You can get an option of 2 seats that go back and forward, so you can either have more boot space or legroom, which is clever. And if you want to see how that works, again, check out my full first look video on the YouTube channel. But if you live in the UK, don't get too excited about the slidey seats because we may not get them here. Sorry. Well, Kia says sorry. In terms of space for your passengers, this is set for Manos, who is 6'2". He's our official human ruler on launches. And look, got loads of space. Good headroom, good legroom, a nice scoop under the seats for my feet to go into. And I know, before you say it, I'm 5'4", but I made Manos get in here to try it out, and he didn't moan too much. In fact, he looked so comfy, I might just leave him in the back on the way back to the airport, because he does have a tendency to moan a bit on long journeys. Yeah, I think that this has really nailed it in terms of being a family car that will work size-wise as well as range-wise. Now, how about your luggage? Is that going to fit? So, the car is compact and the boot is compact as well, but you can fit our overnight bags and our filming kit in. It's just over 400 litres in terms of volume. The VW ID.Polo and the Cupra Raval are a bit bigger, 430 litres. The Skoda Epiq, though, wins the small car battle of the boots. That comes with 475 litres. But what I like about this is the wide opening and low load lip. There's also a hidden subcompartment people like Nicki and I like for keeping our dirty dog walking wellies in. And as I said, you know, you do get that extra space in the back, which I think is probably a bit more important. But forget all that practical stuff, because I just really love a car that says hello to me in the morning. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk efficiency. So I've been driving today in quite mixed conditions. I reckon about half of the driving was on the motorway. I've been on some faster A and B roads, and then a little bit of stop-start traffic around town as well. So very mixed conditions. Now, officially, Kia claims 317 kilometres of range, about 197 miles. In the real world, based on the efficiency I'm seeing of around 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, you're likely looking at around 280 kilometres, roughly 170, 175 miles on a full battery. It's not wildly off, you know. And I do suspect that if you were driving this mainly around town, you would actually be getting much closer to the official figure. And that has impressed me. We also know that in a recent winter driving test, and I mean real winter, sub-zero temperatures, the Kia EV2 performed very well, losing just 20% of its range. Now, if that bigger battery car can deliver similar efficiency, then Kia is really onto something with this, because that will be a range that makes this very usable. The EV2 might be small, but it's packed with big car tech from its other cars. Highway assist, smart cruise control to remote parking. It even has a system that watches the driver and can safely slow the car down if there's no response, which you would hope you'd never have to call on, of course. For the full lowdown, I'd head over to electrifying.com and check out our first drive review. So the EV2 blending perfectly with the background, and I will miss the car and the view, because this might be Kia's smallest electric car, but I reckon it could end up being its most important. You see, the real challenge with small EVs hasn't just been the price, it's been about making them work as your main car. A lot of the more affordable ones, they're great around town, but once you start thinking about longer journeys, they feel like a second car. But by squeezing that bigger battery into something this size and also making it really efficient, the EV2 will have the range to cope with everyday life. So Kia hasn't just arrived early to the small electric car market, they've really got the party started.